Hey there, happy Wednesday. Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles now, and we're live right here on Chat Sports. My name is Chase Sr., and as always, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, I greatly appreciate all of you for making today's show a part of your day. And there's a lot to talk about as A.J. Brown just held a news gathering and a press conference from his locker room, and then Jalen Hurts did the same up at the podium at the NovaCare Complex in South Philadelphia. It's a beautiful Wednesday, December 11th. Chase Sr., Jake Chipper here with you and the rest of the Bird Gang hanging out from every pocket of America and worldwide. Loaded show coming your way. What's going on between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts? They just talked about it. Nick Sirianni discussed the 2024 team dynamic. We'll take a look at the Eagles' playoff path and how they can clinch the division this upcoming weekend in Week 15 with the dub against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Owner Jeffrey Lurie selling a portion of the Eagles. What does this mean for Philadelphia? And we will round out with the mailbag. I want to hear from you, so get involved. You can start getting those questions in right now. Use the hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat. A programming reminder, we will be live on Sunday. Eagles, Steelers, Pennsylvania State, Keystone State rivalry game. And because this game is so massive and because we're so excited about it and because you continue to support the show, we're doing a special extended pregame show. Usually we go live about an hour before kickoff, but for some of these big games, we go live a little bit earlier. So join us. We'll do a pregame show and a tailgate once the game gets underway. Best place to experience an Eagles game day outside of being at the actual game. So be sure to subscribe, lock us in as the show begins at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 o'clock on the West Coast. Some Eagles injury news today. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he was banged up in that game against Carolina. Great news, back on the practice field. One of the leaders of this Eagles team, especially that Eagles defense. He's helped really turn this Eagles defensive unit around from last year when they were terrible. In the words of Charles Barkley, terrible. Reed Blankenship, also back at practice, missed that game last week because of concussion. Sidney Brown, knee injury, he returned to practice. Britton Covey, return man, neck injury, used a little bit as a wide receiver. He was back at practice. And then Landon Dickerson, Mekhi Becton, did not practice as part of arguably the best offensive line in football, but it's all good. They were just getting a rest day. Speaking of Eagles-Steelers on Sunday, I am so pumped up for it. I can't wait for this game coming up at Lincoln Financial Field. And if you're with me and you want the Birds to beat the Steelers, I want you to type F-Pitt down in the comment section right now. Our Super Chat menu for today. We always like to have some fun. Last Wednesday, we did $230 in Super Chats. We brought some of the new guys on, and one was a Patriots fan. The other was a Cowboys fan. We had them sing Fly Eagles Fly. It was hilarious. This week, can we beat last week's number? If we do, we're singing Fly Eagles Fly. We're singing No One Likes Us, We Don't Care. We're going to do a Christmas carol of your choice, and then I will take down a beer boot as well. 3 beers in 1 boot. We have 335 people watching. Only getting started here on today's show. As we like to say, we're starting to take flight. As you come in here, be sure to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. Our sponsor for our live show today, our friends at Game Time. Holidays are coming up. If you want to gift something special to somebody who you really care about, how about tickets to an Eagles game? How about tickets to Eagles-Steelers coming up on Sunday? With the Game Time app, you get the best seats at the lowest price guaranteed. Prices drop as the event gets closer. They have flash deals, zone deals, ticket insurance. They also have the best price guarantee, where if you find a better price on a different app, they will credit you 110% of the difference. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. And you can also access tickets from your phone. A couple of different views of this app. You get the bird's eye view of Lincoln Financial Field if you're very specific about which yard line you want to sit at, but you also see that view from your seat in addition to the price point for those seats. It's not just an app for sporting events, by the way. You can go to concerts, comedy shows, theater events, and a whole lot more. I know Shane Gillis is going on tour here soon. So download the Game Time app, create an account, Use the code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off. Terms apply. First purchase only. That link is hanging out down in the comments section and in the description of today's show. So I appreciate the real ones who are hanging out here, because that means a lot of you have your notifications on. You hit that bell icon. Therefore, anytime we go live, anytime we push out a show, you will be notified. We also love all of our real ones. And at the end of our live show today, I want to open up the floor and do a mailbag. Start to get your questions in right now. Use the hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat. As for A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts, we're going to talk about that coming up just around the corner. I'll give you some information right now because Tyler Sperry can't wait. He said, get to A.J. Brown. Tyler, I appreciate that $2 donation. We're certainly going to do that. A.J. Brown, quote, I'm okay with being whatever bad guy I have to be for the city, the town, whatever the case may be. For my team, I want to hold everybody accountable, be accountable, and to get better. So if I'm that guy, I will be that guy gladly. A.J. Brown on Brandon Graham. BG was just being BG. He's emotional. In that case, he just misspoke. Me and Jalen are good. It's BG. Everybody loves him. He's speaking from the heart. He's just giving his perception on something from the outside. Quarterback Jalen Hurts on if he holds on to the ball too long. That is a criticism of this Eagles passing offense. Quote, there are moments where I can definitely get it out a little bit quicker. That's just something that I own. I'll be better with it. In terms of all that within my role, I will figure it out. He also said, I tend to thrive in adversity. And right now, Jalen Hurts is facing some criticism as a thrower. It's not like he's spinning it at an all-world level, but what is he doing? He's not turning the ball over, which was really handicapping this team a little bit earlier this year. He's making very smart decisions with the football, and he's making a sacrifice for the team. He's not forcing Kellen Moore to call all these passing plays. The Eagles' strength, their identity as a team, is relying on this offensive line and running it with Saquon Barkley. Do they have to be better as a pass offense? There is no doubt about it. Because at some point, a team is really going to go all out and try to stop the run and force Jalen Hurts to throw. They have to be a little bit more balanced and a little bit more efficient with their aerial attack. But this team is special for a reason, and I don't want to see Philadelphia go away from what makes them special and who they are. By the way, breaking news, former Patriots coach Bill Belichick, the greatest coach of all time, arguably, will become the next coach at the University of North Carolina. We have 387 people watching, only 52 likes. Where is everybody at? We need you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video, because we're going to talk more about Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown coming up here in just a moment, but we need at least 100 likes on the show. So be sure to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. And by the way, if we beat our Super Chat record from last week of $220, $230, we're going to have a celebration here on the show. We already got 2 Super Chats, one from Scott, the other from Programmed XD. He said, Jalen is AJ's son's godfather. They will be fine. And they said as much today, that we are fine. We have a good relationship. And I think it's pretty awesome how both of them address this. They nipped it in the bud. I think part of that is a credit to Brandon Graham. If Brandon Graham doesn't say that, are they doing this right now? Probably not. Now they can move ahead to taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right, if you're ready to start the show, we have 4 segments coming up. I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. There was so much juicy news that we decided to go live a little bit earlier. Plenty to discuss. I thought A.J. Brown crushed his media interview at his locker room, and Jalen Hurts always cool, calm, and collected as well. So the official show is about to get underway. That was a part of our audience build-up segment, and now we have a loaded show on the docket for today's Philadelphia Eagles Now. Chip, I think the people are ready, but first, with this audience right now, with people pumped up about this football team, with Philadelphia having won 9 games in a row, looking for 10 against the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday, E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles! Chase Sr., Jake Chipper, the Bird Gang hanging out on this Wednesday, December 11th, and the official show starts right now, so let's get it started. Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr., and no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, as always, I greatly appreciate all of you for making today's show a part of your day. And there is so much to cover because A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts this afternoon at the NovaCare Complex in South Philadelphia just spoke with the media. We are bringing you this video as an instant reaction video, and we're going to talk about all this. Is there beef between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts? Was Brandon Graham's decision calculated with what he said on WIP? What did the Eagles head coach and Nick Sirianni have to say about this? I'll tell you what, you get paid big-time dollars as a head coach in the NFL to manage these situations. And Nick Sirianni does a good job of that. And speaking of that, do the Eagles have 2023 vibes where they lost 6 of their last 7? Or do they have 2022 vibes when that team was special? They loved one another, and it resulted in them winning the NFC title and making it to a Super Bowl. Before we talk about all of this and a whole lot more, do you love the Birds? Do you want daily shows on the Eagles filled with a bunch of news, rumors, analysis, reports, interviews, and all of our content informative, entertaining, insightful, thought-provoking, where you have a voice? If all that sounds good, then hit that subscribe button right now. We are closing in so close to 94,000 subscribers. So, with this whole Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown dynamic, it's been the talk of the city of Philadelphia. It's been one of the marquee talking points all around the nation pertaining to the entire National Football League. Why are we here? Well, the Eagles' pass game struggled against Carolina on Sunday in that Eagles win as they averted that trap game. They won. It was their 9th straight win. It ties a franchise record for victories, but I think it's good to have this mentality. Yeah, we've won 9 games in a row. We haven't lost since that Buccaneers game all the way back in week 4. We know that we can be better, and that is the sign of a championship team. But with what Brandon Graham said on WIP, that Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown aren't friends any longer, he clearly misspoke, according to Hurts and Brown, after they addressed the media on this Wednesday, and that caused some controversy. But let's get to the very beginning and the key point of why this was brought up. It's A.J. Brown saying his biggest concern with this Eagles offense was passing. He said today he wasn't directing that at Jalen Hurts. He was just saying, as an offense, we need to be better at throwing the football. Philadelphia had 83 net passing yards against a bad Carolina secondary. They didn't have momentum. They didn't have explosive plays. They weren't consistent or efficient enough in slinging the rock this past Sunday. And so with the Eagles struggling to move the ball through the air, A.J. Brown was clearly frustrated. All season, though, the Eagles' pass game has been off. They have the 32nd ranked passing offense in the league, but the number 1 ranked rushing offense in the NFL, led by Saquon Barkley, averaging nearly 190 rushing yards per game as a team. Now, to be fair, A.J. Brown was asked after the game, what's the biggest issue with the offense? He said passing. Is he wrong? No, he's not wrong. And also, his fellow wide receiver, Devontae Smith, who isn't as boisterous as A.J. Brown, he's more of a cool, calm, and collected silent killer, he voiced similar concerns. He said the pass game lacks cohesion. Hurts is the quarterback of this team. He's the one who throws the football. He said with our pass game right now, there is a lack of synchronization. The Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni, he said the criticism of our passing attack is completely fair. And I'll tell you this, if the Eagles want to win a Super Bowl, led by their head coach, led by Hurts, Brown, Devontae Smith, Kellen Moore, the pass game has to improve and get better. They have to become a more balanced offensive attack. Jalen Hurts only threw for 108 yards. And upon looking at the tape, he did leave some meat on the bone. He held onto the ball a little bit too long. He didn't let plays develop. He didn't pull the trigger. He took accountability after the game. He said on this Wednesday, December 11, 2024, that, yeah, there were moments when he held onto the ball too long. Sometimes he doesn't trust what he sees. Sometimes he's a little bit hesitant. He's not as decisive as he's been in the past. We've seen it, but this year, yeah, he struggled in those categories. And you think about the road to a Super Bowl for Philadelphia. They are going to go up against a team at some point that will go all out in trying to stop the run. It could come against the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday, where they have to win a game on the arm of Jalen Hurts and this passing game. And if their passing game performs against the Steelers or against the other elite teams like it did against a bad Carolina Panthers secondary, they will be bounced in the NFL playoffs. That's where I get back to this Eagles offense needs to be a little bit more balanced. But there are reasons for why the Eagles have struggled with throwing the football as a whole. And this is Hurts, this is Brown, this is Kellen Moore, this is Nick Sirianni. It's not just one person. But you think about the pass game, right? It takes cohesion. It takes synergy. It takes what Jalen Hurts had said. We're lacking synchronization right now. Well, it's hard to have momentum or rhythm in the pass game when you are running it nearly 57% of the time, when you are rushing it for 190 yards per game. But think about it. A.J. Brown has missed time, multiple games. Devontae Smith has missed time, multiple games. Dallas Goedert has missed time and multiple games, and the Eagles' strength is running the football. So that does keep the offense from really finding a groove. That's not to say that Jalen Hurts can't be better. I will say only in Philadelphia is a team this hot, and you have to worry about this type of drama derailing the season. The good news is, and this is the good news here on Wednesday, that Eagles fans should be elated about. Because last year, some personal beefs, some coaching beefs, and the Eagles just not playing well or coaching well resulted in that late season collapse. And as soon as I saw Brandon Graham say that the other night on WIP, I said, please, not 2023 again. I don't think that's going to happen. A.J. Brown today crushed a press conference from his locker room. He said, myself and Jalen, we're all good. What I said, it wasn't directed to Jalen Hurts. I'm competitive. I want to win. We can fix this right now. And he added context to his comments. He said, I said that for a reason. We went to the Super Bowl and we lost. We tried again next year. We were 10-1. And it was a landslide. And here we go again. It's something that we can correct right now. And that's a good point. He doesn't want what happened last year when the Eagles offense went off the rails to happen this year with how this team is playing, how they're built to win a Super Bowl, and this could be their downfall. As for Jalen Hurts, he said, we're good. Brandon Graham knows that he was in the wrong. I care about A.J. Brown. And so the Eagles as a team are squashing this beef. They are nipping it in the bud. They are moving forward and on to Pittsburgh. And that's what they had to do. They couldn't let this linger. They couldn't let this fester. They couldn't let this marinate. And so for A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts to come out and say this stuff right away, it's big for this football team. Now, coming up next, was Brandon Graham's decision calculated? Because if he didn't say this on WIP, I don't think this is as much of a talking point. I do think that some of these things could linger. We're going to talk about that, what Sirianni had to say, and the vibes of this squad. First, today's poll question is this. Are you worried about this drama? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know down in the comment section right now. Our sponsor for today's show, our friends at Game Time. What time is it? Game Time. Holidays are coming up in just a couple of weeks. If you want to get something special for somebody who you really care about, how about tickets to an Eagles game or a Sixers game? Future tickets to a Phillies game, Flyers game, college basketball, college football with bowl season here and the expanded college football playoff. If you need a break from sports and you want to go to a concert, comedy show, theater event, or more, Game Time has you covered. The best app in the ticketing marketplace where prices drop as the event gets closer and you're guaranteed to get in the door at the best price guaranteed. Plenty of tickets available for remaining Eagles games, including Steelers-Eagles on Sunday. Going to be a majestic sight at Lincoln Financial Field. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive, or you can get that aerial view of your seats as well. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, Use the code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off. Terms apply. First purchase only. You get flash deals and zone deals. Check it out for yourself. Game Time, our sponsor for today's Philadelphia Eagles. Now, so next up was Brandon Graham's decision to talk about this calculated. Did he do it on purpose, and has it served some good? I do believe with what A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts said today, it has served a purpose. It has been a positive. BG has been in the NFL for 15 years. He's been a part of a lot of locker rooms. He has to know that in this city, him saying that live on the flagship station of the Philadelphia Eagles could cause a ruckus. It's going to cause people to talk about it. And right when WIP tweeted that clip out, it went viral. It went everywhere. It spread like wildfire, and it picked up millions of views in minutes. Now, he apologized to A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts, but I think BG knew what he was doing. He is the heart and soul and the heartbeat of this Eagles organization. He knows, and he even said it himself, we have a special team. This is holding us back a little bit. Let's just end this right now. Let's get A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts, two focal points of this team, two team captains on this team, on the same page, and let's win this effing ring so that we can have a parade down Broad Street once again. And look, we've seen A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts dapping each other up against the Rams. Woo! Like, they were in good spirits. They were getting along fine. Just before that game against Carolina, Hurts, Brown, Smith, they were together praying. And so I don't think it's something where they don't have a relationship any longer. They're not friends any longer. They even said today, we are good. But remember, sometimes when you work with people or you're a teammate with somebody, it's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows. It's not always going to be positive. You're not always going to be on the same page. You're not always going to hang out. You're not going to be best friends every moment of every single day, especially in professional sports. Why would this happen? Well, A.J. Brown wants targets. He knows that the pass game has to improve. He knows that is what could keep the Eagles from winning a Super Bowl. Why not address it right now after Week 14 moving forward so we can get it fixed, so that we can get it on the same page, so that we can turn it around and become a productive passing offense, because it's only going to make us better. We know what we can do as a running football team. Imagine what we can do as a throwing football team. If those things mesh, we will be unstoppable, especially going up against a team like the Detroit Lions who can score out of the wazoo. We have to stop starting games so slow. If we do that against Detroit and we fall into a 14-0 hole, we've been able to climb out of that in the past, but against a team like that, of that caliber, we might not be able to do it. Also remember that professional athletes are one of one. They are 1%ers. All right, they are alphas, and sometimes alphas are a little bit direct, and sometimes alphas will be very honest. It's also wide receivers who are always causing drama, to be frank. As for what Nick Sirianni said, he said he discussed this whole topic with the team today in their team meeting to clear the air and focus on the Pittsburgh Steelers. He said 100% he feels as though things are fine between Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. He talks to them every single day. He sees them eating lunch together. And it was addressed earlier this week in a team meeting. Sirianni also added, I see a lot of 2022 vibes as compared to 2023 vibes. And so do I. So do you. So do we. How fun has it been to watch this Eagles team? After they generate turnovers on defense, everybody's running to the end zone. They're dancing like they were in 2022. They're dancing like they were in 2017. On the sideline, you see everybody singing, dancing, dapping each other up, having good communication. When the Eagles were struggling against Baltimore, C.J. Gardner-Johnson got the whole team together and said, we're not playing up to our caliber. We have to get it fixed right now. What happened? Eagles the rest of the way were dominant. That type of leadership, that type of accountability, that type of communication was not happening last year. A.J. Brown against the Rams. What did he say? Look, I don't care that I'm not getting targets. Saquon Barkley is the best player in the world right now. And he said that directly to Saquon Barkley. Those things were not transpiring in 2023. They were in 2022, and they were in 2017. So, look, they ended it. Let's move forward. As Bill Belichick would say, we're moving on to Pittsburgh. And with the Commanders looming after this Steelers game, Eagles have an opportunity to further grab this season by the throat and try to chase this second Lombardi trophy. Be sure to give me a follow on X and Instagram, by the way. I put out so much Eagles coverage on my social media pages, in addition to all of the long-form content right here on Eagles Now. And as always, thanks for your support. Segment number 1 is down. Don't go anywhere. We have 3 more segments to get to. If you want to be informed and entertained on all things birds, let's ride. Tyler Sperry with the $5 super chat. Seems like the newest wide receiver in football had to call out the team to make them better, and Jalen understood, but took the actions louder than words. You're talking about the best wide receiver in football is probably what you meant to say? Yeah, he called out the offense. He said we need to get better. Do the Eagles need to get better? We all know that their passing game needs to improve. Caribbean Craig, if you're living down in the Caribbean, I hope you're having a blast. How do we feel about Jalen taking the play clock down to 1 second every snap? There's no issue with that. Like, if you want to have up-tempo, if you want to go fast rhythm, if you want to go no huddle, by design, yeah, you want to get the play off quicker and you want to have that fast-paced offense. But when you're leading, you want to take that play clock down to 1 and then get the snap off, because those seconds can add up at the end of the game where the opposition has more time to win the ball game. For instance, against Carolina, they got the ball back. They didn't have a ton of time left. That helped Philadelphia. So it's a little bit of a mixed bag, and you can see both perspectives. Tyler Sperry again with the $2 super chat. Action speaking louder than words. I gotcha. Rich Tucker with the $5 super chat. AJ, Jalen, Devontae have all been good friends since college. Drama is just a bunch of press BS. And, you know, I do think it's funny how people are like, oh, the Philadelphia media is the worst. Brandon Graham literally said it himself to the media as a player on this football team, so he kind of caused this himself, and so did A.J. Brown when he said what he said after the game on Sunday. Rich Tucker with another 5. Look at it this way. You may argue with your wife, but does that mean that you're done? No. And I mentioned that a little bit earlier, right? Like, you might not be best friends with your coworkers and your teammates. You still have to coexist. You might be friends with your coworkers and teammates, but you're not always going to see eye to eye. And sometimes, yeah, you do have some arguments. And then Rich Tucker with the 2, he said, "What up, Chip?" Producer Chip making the show go.
Yeah.
The legend as always. Chip, what do you got to say, man? What do you got to say?
It's a lot. You know, when I heard this whole topic and this all going down, I knew immediately it was going to be like this whole big thing. But I wasn't really worried.
Yeah.
Because, one, the vibes around this team were just too good. We know how good of friends they are. As Chase has mentioned, like, it's not like they've been on the sidelines arguing. We've seen in their body language that they've been fine. But, you know, obviously, as AJ said, like, when you have the expectations that, you know, the Eagles have, and you're part of an organization and a culture that wants to achieve greatness and be the best they can be, you're going to call something out when you see it could be better.
Yep.
And again, it's not like he was like, man, Jalen Hurts got to get me the ball, or like, I'm not getting the ball enough, or Jalen Hurts needs to be better. He said the passing game has to be better, and the passing game includes him. He's part of the passing game.
Yep.
So I agree with what he said. The passing game has to be better, as you said, Chase, and I do think that they'll be better from this. But I'll tell you this, though, if they don't improve and they start to go downhill a little bit, things could get ugly. Things could get ugly if the passing game continues to struggle.
If they struggle against Pittsburgh, they struggle against Washington, yeah, that's when you start to have some concerns. All right, let's move forward here with the show. Let's pop up our Super Chat menu one more time because we always like to have a blast here on the show. Last Wednesday, we did $230 in Super Chats. This week, if we beat it, we're singing Fly, Eagles, Fly, No One Likes Us, We Don't Care, A Christmas Carol, and I'm taking down a beer boot. That's 3 beers in 1 boot. We're off to a good start, up to $28 in Super Chats. The number to beat is $230 from last week. Also, if you have questions about any of this, use the hashtag Eagles or send in a Super Chat. I know a lot of you. You're all ball knowers. You have a lot of takes. You have a lot of opinions, some analysis, and some questions. So get this in right now. Hashtag Eagles or Super Chat. The thought behind that is, and why we do that, so many comments come in, And through our system, Chip is able to filter through all of the comments. And if you use hashtag Eagles, he pops them right up for a mailbag. Segment number 2 coming your way right now as we talk about this Eagles playoff path. Let's do it. What's up? What's good? Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. Chase Sr. here with you. And coming up, we're going to take a look at a new Eagles playoff path, which includes clinching scenarios, how the Eagles can win the NFC East, and how they can lock up a top seed this weekend against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Week 15. Speaking of that game, we'll be live for it. Eagles-Steelers watch party getting underway at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 o'clock on the West Coast. The best place to experience an Eagles game day outside of being at the actual game. So be sure to hit that sub button, hit that bell icon, turn on your notifications. Therefore, anytime we go live, anytime we push out a show like this one, you will be notified. Let's begin here. It is wild how quickly the 2024 campaign has gone and how fast the year is gone. I feel as though just a few weeks ago, I was in Las Vegas covering the Super Bowl, doing a bunch of great interviews for Eagles Now, getting all types of content. We were at the NFL Combine back in March, preseason, training camp. Now, here we are, entering Week 15. The season is coming to a close, and we're getting ready for the NFL playoffs. We're getting ready for the 2025 calendar year. Last 4 games for Philadelphia here, at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers, on the road against the Washington Commanders, at home against the Dallas Cowboys, and at home against the New York Giants. 3 of their last 4 games inside the friendly confines of Lincoln Financial Field in South Philadelphia. And since that Rams game, we talked about that at the time, Philadelphia doesn't even need to board a flight from that point on, allowing them to rest up and recharge for the playoffs. The NFC playoff picture. Here's a look at things on this Wednesday, December 11th as we record this show. A big Thursday night game that has wild card and NFC West implications. Rams, Niners. And so by the time that you watch this video, if you're not hanging out with us live, that game will be decided. The records will be a little bit different, and it could change some things in the wild card hunt and in the NFC West. But elsewhere, you have the Detroit Lions at 12-1. They've clinched a playoff spot, a game lead over Philadelphia. Eagles jockeying for home field advantage with Detroit in the NFC playoffs. The Eagles 11-2, clinching a playoff spot with that win against Carolina last week. The Seattle Seahawks, they've won 4 games in a row, now 8-5, leading the aforementioned NFC West. We have a change in the NFC South. The Falcons are just collapsing right now. Kirk Cousins playing awful football, and the Buccaneers are rising up. They are 7-6, running the heck out of the ball. The defense has made some improvements because the NFC North is so loaded. The 3 wildcard teams include 2 teams from that division, 11-2 Minnesota Vikings, 9-4 Green Bay Packers, and then the Washington Commanders will play the New Orleans Saints this week. They are at 8-5. And speaking of that, NFC East standings, Philadelphia can win the division this week. We'll tell you how coming up here in just a moment, but Philadelphia in firm control of this division. 11-2, a 3-game lead on the Commanders, undefeated in the NFC East at 3-0 with 3 divisional games left. The Commanders at 8-5, 2-2 inside this division. Then you have the Cowboys and the Giants. They will not be making the playoffs. There are 3 relevant games that we're really going to be keeping close tabs on in Week 15. Of course, Steelers at Eagles, Commanders at Saints, and Packers at Seahawks. These games have some really big playoff implications and seeding implications for Philadelphia. The Birds at home against Pittsburgh, Keystone State rivalry game. Philadelphia, 4.5-point favorites. The over-under at 42.5, a little bit low. So the odds makers expecting this game to be a little bit of a defensive slugfest. This game taking place Sunday, December 15th, 4:25 p.m. Eastern, 1:25 p.m. Pacific. The Commanders will go to New Orleans and play the Saints. Saints going to be without quarterback Derek Carr. That's why the Commanders, 7-point favorites. You kind of want the Commanders to keep winning outside of beating Philadelphia next week because you want that to be the 2-7 matchup. You don't want to take on a scary Rams team in the 2-7. you kind of want to avoid the Niners in that 2-7 matchup. The Commanders are the team that you want, that we want to be that 7 seed, the over-under there at 43.5. That game will be in the early window. And then the Sunday night game, tremendous matchup. Fascinating for so many reasons. A Packers team that is going to be a wild card squad after losing their second game to the Lions this year. They're very talented. A little bit Jekyll and Hyde, as is Jordan Love, but they're very good. And the Packers, 3-point road favorites on the road against a Seattle team that's caught fire. It all started a few weeks ago when they came back to beat the Niners at the buzzer with that Geno Smith touchdown run. They haven't lost since then. And right now, they're leading the NFC West. That game, Sunday night, 8:20 p.m. Eastern, and the over-under at 46.5. As for how Philadelphia can clinch the NFC East in a top 3 seed this weekend. Scenario number 1, Eagles win, and the Commanders lose or tie. So if Philadelphia beats Pittsburgh, Commanders lose to New Orleans, the NFC East is Philadelphia's for the second time in 3 years. If the Eagles tie and the Commanders lose, Eagles still win this division. We do have Eagles at Commanders next week. Philadelphia with that opportunity to once again win this division. And they could also wrap it up next week with that win over the Commanders if the Commanders beat New Orleans. As for how Philadelphia can clinch a top 2 seed, Eagles win or tie, Commanders lose, and the Seahawks lose. Scenario number 2, Eagles win, Commanders tie, and Seahawks lose or tie. And then third, Eagles win and Commanders lose and the Seahawks tie. As we look ahead, I think a matchup that America wants to see, Detroit Lions, Philadelphia Eagles, NFC Championship game. Who would win if these two teams clashed? Let me know down in the comments section. I have said here on this show that I think Philadelphia matches up very well with Detroit, especially with that banged-up defense. A lot more to get to, but first, let's get to a new sponsor here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. That is our friends at Tushy. Save big on Tushy by going to hellotushy.com/chat. Is it selfish or is it brilliantly anti-capitalist to gift your one true love something that also benefits you? When it's a bidet, everybody wins because the gift of a clean booty keeps giving for life. A holiday gifting 101, why drop 2 or 3 Benjamins on a cooler that'll get used some of the time when you can spend a fraction of that cost on a bidet and your whole household will use it all the time? 'Tis the season for uncomfortable family dinners. Now's the time to upgrade your only escape hatch from that table by installing a soothing, refreshing bidet in your bathroom. A household full of holiday guests is a beautiful thing until you realize they're all endlessly wiping in your bathroom. It gets stinky. So give your toilet a fighting chance by installing a Tushy bidet. Here's some cool facts about Tushy. Fits 95% of toilets. 8.5-minute do-it-yourself install, fresh as tap water, and no outlet is needed. So right now, the Tushy bidet is dropping deep discounts on bidet life essentials that'll transform your bathroom habits and your butt for life. So give the gift of practical luxury that benefits everybody in your household. Head to hellotushy.com/chat. And do that now to grab your deal before it's gone. And don't forget to give us a shout out so that they know that Chat Sports sent you. It's a better way to do things. hellotushy.com/chat. We continue to move forward. NFC playoff picture. Let's go team by team here. Week 14, Detroit Lions beat the Green Bay Packers on Thursday Night Football. Such a highly entertaining game. And it was one that went back and forth, and Detroit ended up winning it. Dan Campbell put his nuts on the table, man, going for 4th downs on 5 opportunities there. Paid off big for the Lions. In Week 15, you have a Bills team coming off a loss. They will travel to Detroit in one of the games of the week. Games left for Detroit after that Bills game. On the road against Chicago. Jared Goff not good in the cold weather. So here's a scenario. What if the Lions lose against the Bills, lose against Chicago? Philadelphia wins against the Steelers and the Commanders. What does that mean, ladies and gentlemen? Eagles have the number 1 seed in the NFC. After that Chicago game, Detroit is on the road against the Niners. They're starting to heat up a little bit, and against Minnesota at home. The Lions have already clinched that playoff spot. For Philadelphia, beat the Panthers, squeaked out that win 22-16. Week 15 against Pittsburgh, games left. We mentioned them earlier at Washington, against Dallas, and New York at home. Eagles have clinched at the worst a 7 seed and a playoff spot. For the Seattle Seahawks, they beat the Cardinals 30-18, beat Arizona for the second time in 3 weeks. Looks like Kyler Murray having another late season collapse. In Week 15, against the Packers at home on Sunday Night Football as underdogs, games left for Seattle against Minnesota, at Chicago, and against the Rams. Difficult schedule for the Seahawks. Their playoff probability is at 65%. I only think one team from the NFC West gets in, barring a collapse for Washington. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Week 14, beat the Raiders 28-13. Week 15 on the road against the Chargers. Tough game, cross-country travel. Games left at Dallas, against Carolina, and against New Orleans. Their playoff probability, 71%. We know Tampa Bay, Todd Bowles, and Baker Mayfield, they play Philadelphia tough. Minnesota Vikings, Week 14, beat the Falcons 42-21, and Kirk Cousins' return to Minneapolis. Week 15, they take on the Bears on Monday Night Football at home. Games left after that, on the road against Seattle, always a hard place to play, against Green Bay and Detroit. Their playoff probability, about 99%. They're going to be a wild card team. They could still get the number 1 seed in the NFC as they jockey with Detroit right now. Green Bay Packers, Week 14, a loss against the Lions, as we talked about, 34-31. Game came down to the wire, field goal at the horn. Week 15, that Sunday night game against the Seahawks, and then after that, against New Orleans, at Minnesota, and against Chicago, their playoff probability at 97%. For Washington, a pretty good first year of that rebuild with Jane Daniels at quarterback. Week 14 was their bye, late bye. Week 15 at Saints, and then home against Philadelphia, home against Atlanta, at Dallas. Their playoff probability, 79%. Give me Washington and a rookie quarterback at Lincoln Financial Field in the wild card round if the Eagles can't get that number 1 seed and they fall to number 2. The Rams as a 7 seed, certainly a dangerous team, but again, I only think one team from the NFC West gets in because I think 2 teams from the NFC East and 3 teams from the NFC North are playoff bound. The Niners as a 7 seed are also pretty dangerous because physically they can match up with Philadelphia, although on an even field, both teams healthy, both teams playing their best ball. I'll still take Philadelphia right now because San Francisco banged up, worn down, and a little bit broken spiritually, mentally, and physically. The Packers as a 7 seed, also a team to look out for, although I think they're going to be that 6 seed, and I think the playoff wildcard team's going to be as such. I think it's going to be NFC North, NFC East for the 5, 6, 7. So what say you? Level of confidence that the Eagles can win a Super Bowl. Shout it out in the comments section. 1 to 100. 100 very confident. 1 not confident at all. We'll give you some shout outs on that poll question here. What are the people saying? Cool Rains 90, Muhammad 99, Paul Ballard 50. So he's right in the middle there. Rivas 90, Dragon 80. I'm pretty confident Philadelphia can get back there. Can they win? They are certainly capable of winning. No doubt about it. Kane Angel 75, a little bit measured there.
Look, they had the talent to be able to get there, no question about it.
Yeah.
Did they play up to their highest potential? We'll see, but there's no doubt. They have the roster talent to be able to make a deep run.
No doubt. All right, here's our Super Chat menu. Last Wednesday, we did $230 in Super Chats on this live show. This week, our goal, can we beat it? If we do, we're singing Fly Eagles Fly. We're singing No One Likes Us, We Don't Care. We're singing A Christmas Carol. It's December. Come on now. And I'm taking down a beer boot. 3 beers, 1 boot. 2 segments left, the last of which will be a mailbag. If you want us to stay live, get your questions in now. Hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat. That's hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat. Robert Serrata, 98%. Michael Amoroso, 98%.
Continue to get those questions in, baby. Super chat guarantees.
Lie win. I love what he said. Let's go 8-Ball Paul. Kelly Knock!
Oh!
A $50 super chat. E-A-G-L-E-S. Eagles! Thank you, Kelly, for the 50 piece. That gets us up to $78 in super chats. We always love to celebrate the big time donations because if you donate to the show with your hard-earned money, it goes a long way in supporting everything that we do. It takes effort and we appreciate it. Kelly Knock, what a legend right there. Everybody type KN in the comments section. Show her some love.
Kelly.
KN in the chat for Kelly Knock. All right, another reminder, hashtag Eagles, super chat to be a part of the mailbag here. And let's move forward with segment number 3. Are the Eagles the best team in the NFL? From Dylan, the Eagles fan. Best team in the NFL? Most talented if they figure out their pass game, given their run game being what it is and their defense being what it is, that'll make them the best team in the NFL. But right now, I don't think they're quite complete to the point where they're the number 1 team in the National Football League. All right, segment number 3. Let's get it started. Coming up on today's edition of Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports, my name is Chase Sr. Thanks for hanging out here with us on the show. Could it get to a point where the Eagles trade A.J. Brown after this year? I'm going to explain why Philadelphia can't allow that to happen and why it won't happen. Also, Eagles fans getting some interesting news this week from owner Jeffrey Lurie. Today's poll question is this: what is the Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown story? Hurts on Wednesday said, we're good. I care about A.J. He wants the ball. He wants to win. I want to win. I want to get him the football. A.J. Brown also saying, yeah, we're good. Jalen Hurts and I are friends. But is it something? Is it nothing? That's today's poll question. Let me know down in the comment section. What we hope, because of the dynamic of this quarterback-wide receiver relationship and what we've seen throughout franchise history, is that this is not a Donovan McNabb, Terrell Owens dynamic, where one of these two players gets traded because they can't coexist. And there is a little bit of a history here, and I do think there is a little bit of a post-traumatic syndrome here, because you think about what happened last year in 2023. A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts, they butted heads a little bit. That has resurfaced to a certain degree here in 2024, where you look ahead into the future, could this resurface once again where Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown can't coexist? And given the franchise history of what happened with Donovan McNabb and Terrell Owens and how wide receivers sometimes, they can be dramatic. They can be selfish. They can't read the room. And when they don't get their way, they pout and they ask out. We've seen countless examples of this over time. But this is what we do know. We don't know about the future. We know that the Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown 1-2 punch has been dynamite for Philadelphia the last 3 years. Since Howie Roseman fleeced the Tennessee Titans, since A.J. Brown came into the league, he was incredible in 2022. His numbers were once again dominant in 2023. And even though his target numbers are down in 2024, he's still highly productive, on pace to surpass 1,000 receiving yards. And you don't want to see these two players get separated, because all they've done is produce and win, give us something to cheer about, and play great football. Hurts and Brown, 37-8 together with the Philadelphia Eagles. So they are performing at a high level. They are winning at a high level. They've put up huge numbers. They both got massive contract extensions. Jalen Hurts, 2 off seasons ago, $50 million per year. Eagles paid him like the franchise quarterback that he is. And then A.J. Brown just got paid a few months ago during the offseason when Howie Roseman gave him a bag. Because Howie Roseman knows when you have a quarterback, and in this case, 2 wide receivers, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and they're so dynamic like they are, you're going to have a high-performing offense for many years to come. And A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts have been one of the top quarterback-wide receiver duos across the entire National Football League. Brown's first 2 years in Philadelphia, the best 2-year stretch that any wide receiver has had in the history of this organization. And the Eagles organization has had some great wide receivers. Mike Quick, Harold Carmichael, Irving Fryer, Terrell Owens, Deshaun Jackson, Jeremy Maclin. The name goes on and on and on. And in 2022, his first year in Philadelphia, he's targeted 145 times, 88 catches, nearly 1,500 yards, 11 touchdowns, 17 yards per catch. Last year, numbers still incredible. In fact, the targets went up, the receptions went up, the receiving yards did go down, so in turn, the yards per catch numbers went down. He had that incredible stretch where he had 5 or 6 straight games or whatever it was with 100-plus receiving yards and had a 7-touchdown season. This year in 2024, A.J. Brown has missed multiple games. He's only played 10 of 13 games, yet he still has 48 grabs for 836 yards. His yards per catch, the second best mark of his career, and he has 4 touchdowns. Another key element of where the Eagles are right now is that Howie Roseman and Jalen Hurts want this wide receiver duo to be together, not just the quarterback wide receiver duo. Because A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, one of the best 1-2 punches at the wide receiver spot in the entire NFL. And so it was good this week on this Wednesday, December 11th, that Jalen Hurts came out publicly and addressed the matter. It was good that A.J. Brown crushed it with that press conference at his locker room and addressed the matter. And honestly, if Brandon Graham doesn't go on WIP and says what he says, does this linger? Does it fester? Does it marinate? It might. But him saying it publicly forced the team, Hurts, Brown, Sirianni, to talk about this matter directly. And Sirianni had a team meeting and addressed it to the entire team. Let's get past this. Philadelphia Eagles cannot trade A.J. Brown. The pass game goes through him. He's one of the top wide receivers in the game. And he's just an incredible player. And what sucked about Donovan McNabb and T.O. in the early 2000s, we saw them play together for just one full season. And in light of what's transpired this week, they both went public again. They are still beefing all the way now in 2024. And T.O. in 2024, it looked as though the Eagles were going to finally win that Super Bowl. It looked as though McNabb was going to have his number 1 wide receiver for many years to come. 127 targets that year, 77 catches, 1,200 yards, 14 touchdowns. Missed the last few games in the season because of that broken ankle that he suffered against the Cowboys. He was a first-team All-Pro that year, gave McNabb a number 1 finally. We saw an Andy Reid offense and what it looks like with a true number 1 and not Hank Baskett having to be a running mate to Todd Pinkston. And the Eagles returned to the Super Bowl that year got to the Super Bowl that year, finally got over the hump. But what I meant to say is Terrell Owens came off that ankle injury, played in that Super Bowl with screws in his ankle. If the Eagles win that game, he would have been Super Bowl MVP. Joe Banner also deserves some slack his way because T.O. wanted to get paid and Joe Banner wasn't willing to pay him. And T.O., I thought he earned that bag. So if you did have to keep one, if it got to that point, who would you keep? J.H. for Jalen Hurts, A.J. for A.J. Brown. Let me know down in the comment section right now. Our sponsor for today's Eagles Now, our friends at Game Time, the best app in the ticketing marketplace. And as you look ahead to the holidays, sometimes we can all get very indecisive with what to get people who we care about something for the holidays. Well, how about tickets to an Eagles game? How about tickets to a concert, comedy show, theater event, Download the Game Time app. They give you the best seats at the lowest price guaranteed. Prices drop as the event gets closer. And it's just the best app as far as user interface. Game Time ticket insurance, where if you find a lower price elsewhere, they will credit you 110% of the difference. They have flash deals, zone deals. The technology on this app is awesome, where you can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. You can easily resell your tickets. But for me, I love to see the price point and the vantage point from the seats, whether I go to a game, concert, comedy show, theater event, and more. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off. Terms apply. First purchase only. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. What time is it? Game time. All right, so the back half of the show here, some pretty interesting news this week for a variety of reasons. Adam Schefter breaking the news on Wednesday that Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie received NFL approval for the sale of an 8% interest of the team to two family investors, per league source. This sale was based on a valuation of the team of up to $8.3 billion, and Jeffrey Lurie will maintain complete control of the team. It's not like he no longer has say. This is minority ownership and a minority sale for Jeffrey Lurie to become richer and for the Eagles to make more money as an organization, to continue to build this team in a way that makes them one of the most well-run organizations in the sport. So you don't have to worry about Jeffrey Lurie just ceding control. He is still the man and the front face, all center for Philadelphia moving forward. Now, Lurie bought the Eagles all the way back in 1994 from the infamous Norman Brahman. And at the time, Jeffrey Lurie, if you like business, this is fascinating. If you like money and cash flow, this is wild. He bought the Eagles for $185 million. At the time in 1994, that was a record for a sports team at the time. Pretty safe to say that Jeffrey Lurie has made good on his investment. He bought the team for $185 million. The Eagles are now valued at $8.3 billion. Austin Powers movie, Dr. Evil, $1 billion. If the Eagles were to sell right now, by the way, for $8.3 billion, it would represent a record price tag for an NFL team. Now, if the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones were to sell, I'd say it'd probably be $10 billion, if not more. But if Jeffrey Lurie were to sell the team right now, it would be $8.3 billion. And that has to do with the valuation of the Eagles and that 8% of ownership that Lurie sold off. Jeffrey Lurie, we are very lucky to have him as the Eagles owner, and I'm going to expand my thoughts on that in a moment, but he takes over in 1994. That was, 94 to 04 to 2014. That was 30 years ago? 30 years ago? Am I right on that? 04, 14, 24. Okay, so I failed elementary algebra at Temple. So in 30 years running this organization, the Eagles have made the playoffs 19 times. What a hit rate right there. Of those 30 years, they've won an NFC East title a third of the time. They have won 3 conference championships during that time. 04, 2017, 2022. They've made it to 7 conference championship games. That is an incredible run. And they, of course, have that 1 Super Bowl championship. Jeffrey Lurie is one of the best owners in all of sports. So for him to continue to run this organization, that's great. God willing, he continues to stay in great health. I hope that he can do this for a really long time because he gives Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni, and this Eagles organization the resources to be successful. He's aggressive. He has a say. He knows ball. He's willing to invest in the team. Cherish this because there are other teams and fan bases that aren't as lucky. The New York Jets, Woody Johnson, terrible owner. They are constantly in dysfunction. Everybody around the league knows that. The Cincinnati Bengals, their owner, doesn't really invest in the team. Jerry Jones, kind of delusional. There are other teams who just want to make money. Jeffrey Lurie, on the other hand, invests in the team because he wants them to win, and that's huge. If you love this Eagles organization led by Jeffrey Lurie, type Go Birds down in the comments section. And as always, thanks for watching the show. All right. Couple of big-time Super Chats that we got. We're up to 137 in Supers. I saw some 20s come in from Romeo and Mary. So last week, we did $230 in Super Chats. This week, we're trying to beat that number. If we do, we're singing Fly Eagles Fly. We're singing No One Likes Us, We Don't Care. We're singing A Christmas Carol, and we're taking out a beer boot. We are less than $100 away from reaching that number. Can we get there? Let's go. We also had a 20 come in from Caribbean Craig. If George Pickens is out, who's the more dangerous wide receiver against our D? Calvin Austin or Williams? Calvin Austin is their number 2 wide receiver. George Pickens is really good. And a key here, Russell Wilson is averaging a career high in yards per attempt. A big reason for that, he's throwing that long ball. And so you don't have George Pickens for that Steelers offense. That hurts their pass game a lot. Pat Freiermuth is a really good tight end. And Van Jefferson, another receiver on that team who's been able to make some plays. But Calvin Austin III is definitely their second best wide receiver. Mary Baver, $20 Super Chat. Eagles have been playing what they got to do. LFG, EAGLES, Eagles. Thank you, Mary. And then Romeo. Somebody put on that old Joe Desi, AJ, won't you please stay? I love it. I love it. Romeo, I wish you could call into the show so that you could sing it yourself.
Oh, that'd be legendary stuff.
All right, our Super Chat menu. As I said, we get past 2:30. We're doing all of this right here, and we have a mailbag coming up. We are at 137 in Super Chats. Can we beat it?
Come on, man.
Last call for our mailbag. Hashtag Eagles or Super Chat. If you do send in a Super Chat, you will skip the line, and we'll answer your questions first. Amari Rivers.
Chance.
If the Eagles went to the Super Bowl, who would they play? Who would win, and what's the score? Obviously I can't predict that right now, and we don't know, but I like Kansas City. I like Buffalo. Baltimore, I think, is a little bit flawed. I think Pittsburgh can play the role of upsetter against KC or against Buffalo because of that defense and because of their coaching. So well coached in all 3 phases. So my top teams in the AFC, no particular order, who could represent the AFC in a Super Bowl, I think it's Kansas City. I think it's Buffalo. I think it's Pittsburgh. Baltimore. Actually, those are my top 4 teams in the AFC in order. So there you go. There you go. Todd Tony, what's up? Love your show. I love you. Thanks for watching the show. All right, last call. Hashtag Eagles or Super Chat. How we doing on the mail stack?
We have enough. We have enough questions. Still time if you want to get yours in. We're gonna get it started right now, but you can still get yours in, and we'll get it in there. So hashtag Eagles.
Let's run it
last
up.
call. Get those questions in right now.
Let's run it up.
Make sure you ask a question with hashtag Eagles. I see a few people just typing hashtag Eagles. You got to ask a question with it.
Yes, sir.
Alrighty.
All right, mailbag coming up. Segment number 4. We've had a great audience here today. Thanks for being here, but we ain't done yet. We ain't done yet. Who said that? Let me know down in the comment section. Former cornerback. All right, mailbag time. Here we go. Hey there, welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. As always, no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. What we're going to get into, we're going to open up the floor, do a little bit of a mailbag, and take some questions from our subscribers right here on the show. And if you have a hot take, we can get that featured as well. Speaking of this show, we give you videos like this, shows every single day year-round, and we go live for games. It's the best place to experience an Eagles game day outside of being at the actual game. So I hope that you check us out for our Eagles-Steelers watch party Super Chat giveaways, live play-by-play, audience interaction, pregame show, postgame show, and it all gets started with a special extended pregame show at 3 p.m. Eastern, nearly 90 minutes before kick. Let's get started with this $5 Super Chat coming in from Rich Tucker. A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, they've all been good friends since college. Drama is just a bunch of press BS. And I will say, media sometimes can drive these narratives, and the media can make these narratives very exhausting. Now, you're probably watching the show right now saying, Chase, you are a part of the media. Yeah, in a way I am. I wouldn't characterize myself as a journalist any longer. I used to be. I was a news reporter in my previous job at WNEP, 3.5 years, covering everything from murders to political races and car crashes to high school sports, Penn State football, AAA baseball, going live at Major League Baseball stadiums. I was doing all of that. And in that life, yeah, I was a true Big J. And it does bother me how Big J's can pedal out and repeat these narratives in order to cause drama, because that forces people to click, listen, and watch. That is a thing. And it is a thing in a media market like Philadelphia, with a diehard fan base in Philadelphia, with Eagles fans who are always starving for Eagles content. And sometimes there can be a twisting of narratives in order to fit an agenda. We see it all the time. That's why people have lost trust in the media. We saw it during this election, right? But in this case, A.J. Brown made this happen with what he said to the media. It's the media's job, of course, to then inform the audience as to what's going on. Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, they acknowledged this Eagles passing game is not up to par right now. They know that the pass game has to get better for this team to win a Super Bowl. Brandon Graham, as a player, took to the media live on WIP and talked about the friendship of Hurts and Brown and how their dynamic might hold the Eagles back a little bit. And so in this case, I actually don't blame the media at all. And I get sick and tired of the media. I can't watch the news media any longer because I never know what's fact, what's fiction. But in this case, I'm not blaming the media. I'm not blaming the press because the players were the ones who started this. Caribbean Craig, $20 super chat. If George Pickens is out, who's the more dangerous wide receiver on that Steelers team? So this is actually a pretty big deal. And the Steelers are getting some bad news in this game against Philadelphia. George Pickens is one of the top young wide receivers in the National Football League, and his numbers have really elevated since Russell Wilson took over as the team's starting quarterback. And he's a freak talent. 6'3", 200 pounds, good speed, good route runner, and a really good long ball threat for Russell Wilson. On the year, he has 55 catches for 850 yards and 3 touchdowns. George Pickens as a player is averaging 15.5 yards per catch, and literally his explosion in numbers coincide with Russell Wilson taking over for Justin Fields. One thing that Pickens gives Russ, the deep ball threat because of his height, ability to come down with those 50-50 contested catches, and that's a big reason why Russell Wilson is averaging a career best in yards per attempt. Credit to Russ. Last couple of years, he was so bad for Denver. I thought he was cooked. He does have a pretty good supporting cast with Pittsburgh. Good offensive line, good running game, 2 good backs, good tight end, Pat Freiermuth, and a decent receiving core, and an awesome defense. And that's helped to elevate him. The makeup of this team, kind of like those Legion of Boom days, and that's helped to elevate the game of Russ. But he's also putting up some decent numbers. But George Pickens being out of this game could really hurt this Steelers passing attack against the number 1 defense in the NFL. Now, with Pickens probably not playing because of that hamstring issue, Calvin Austin becomes their second best wide receiver to answer that question. Before we continue to take your questions, Want to give a shout out to one of our sponsors here on board at Philadelphia Eagles Now and under the Chat Sports umbrella, and that's our friends at ZBiotics. You can see what they have to offer at zbiotics.com/chatsports or scan the QR code on your screen right now. Have you ever skipped a workout because of drinks the night before? Me too. If you're committed to your healthy routine like I am with my running streak closing in on 600 days, you need ZBiotics pre-alcohol. We all have busy lives these days and can't afford to waste a day stuck on the couch because of a few drinks. I hate it. ZBiotics pre-alcohol is the answer that we've all been waiting for, and it's the answer to my issues. Let's face it, after a night with drinks, I don't always bounce back the next day like I used to. I'm starting to get a little bit longer in the tooth. It happens. The real ones know I have to make a choice. I can either have a great night or a great next day. That is until I've found ZBiotics pre-alcohol. Pre-alcohol is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. And just remember to drink this probiotic before drinking alcohol. Drink responsibly, of course, and get a good night's sleep to feel your best tomorrow. The first time I tried it was last football season after a watch party, and before a watch party, as instructed, drank that bottle of pre-alcohol before any alcohol. I was amazed at how I felt the next day. So stay in the loop. Go to zbiotics.com/chatsports, scan that QR code that we've been showing you on your screen, and get 15% off your order when you use the code chatsports at checkout. It's also a good stocking stuffer coming up during the holiday season. You can also sign up for a subscription using our code so that you can stay prepared no matter the time or the occasion. It's backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money. No questions asked. Next up, Caribbean Craig with another $20 super chat. Will we be using Kari Blasingame against the Steelers? It could spring Saquon Barkley a little bit. That is a great question. And if you're living in the Caribbean, by the way, my man, I hope that you're enjoying life down there. Probably means you've done very well for yourself. So that's awesome. It's a good point because of this matchup that we have here on Sunday. The Pittsburgh Steelers are one of the top defenses against the run in the NFL this year. And I want to bring up their numbers as a rushing defense because they have a physical front, good linebacking core, well-coached defensively. They are going to load the box against Philadelphia and force the Eagles to beat them against that stacked front, and Jalen Hurts is going to have to make a couple of throws. The Steelers against the run, 6th in yards per rush at 4.1, 4th in rushing yards per game at 91.5. What can help Kellen Moore in Philadelphia counter all those bodies up front? Using the fullback. Now, I saw Kari Blasingame in there a little bit against Carolina, but not used all that much. He was signed earlier in the week, elevated from the practice squad to the game day roster. Still has a few game day activations left for the veteran pickup here. But as he gets more acclimated with this offense, I think that he plays a little bit more. And in this game against Pittsburgh, it is a good scheme player and thought process to have a fullback on the field leading the way for Saquon Barkley when the Eagles want to go heavy to counter the Steelers going heavy with that ground attack, which is averaging nearly 200 yards rushing per game, $190 to be exact. Anthony Byers, did you see the Bill Belichick news? He's no longer an option for a head coach in the NFL. Another L for the Cowboys. Yeah, so we're live right now on Wednesday, December 11th. If you're watching the show over the weekend when it comes out, and I hope everybody is having a great weekend. Bill Belichick's having a great weekend. He's getting paid by UNC. And I did see the news. I think it's fascinating. I do think that with NIL being so important in the college football landscape, that's kind of like free agency. And Bill Belichick is going to be able to use that to his advantage. And he's going to bring in a bunch of former NFL people, a really good coaching staff. he put together like a 400-page guide with 2 different pathways for how he's going to lead UNC. And this dude lives and breathes football. And it's not like he's going to have to hit the recruiting trail like you had to do a few years ago. There is free agency. Will he have to recruit a little bit? No doubt. But players are going to want to go to UNC because they know Bill Belichick's program is going to allow them to make it to the NFL. And so it's fascinating. Bill Belichick, I think he's taking this job out of loyalty. He's saying to himself, look, no NFL teams wanted to hire me, so let me go the college route. UNC wants me. I want to feel wanted, and I want to run things where it's my way or the highway. Also, he might have it in writing where Steve Belichick, his son, is the next head coach in waiting. Steve Belichick is the DC for Washington right now. He's going to be the DC for the Tar Heels. Amari Rivers. If the Eagles played the Lions in the NFC Championship game, who would win? What would the score be? So I like, personally, how Philadelphia matches up against Detroit. I think the Lions, given their injuries on defense, lack of cohesion on defense because of those injuries, and lacking defensive talent, would struggle a little bit with the Eagles' offensive line and with the Eagles' running game. I also do think that Jalen Hurts would be able to have success through the air. Now, this Lions offense is very good. Jared Goff is having a great year. They have good weapons. They have a 1-2 punch at that running back spot. Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, and the best offensive mind as far as OCs go, best play designer and best play caller in the NFL in Ben Johnson. But the Eagles also have the number 1 defense in the NFL. This is where it's huge. What it comes down to for me, not fully, but partially. If the Eagles get the Lions at Lincoln Financial Field in January, you have to love how they stack up against Detroit. Because let me pass along the Jared Goff splits indoors and outdoors. And this has been a problem for him throughout his entire career. So, indoors, he is completing 73.9% of his passes, 8.8 yards per completion, 22 touchdowns, 5 picks, a passer rating of 116.1. Outdoors, completion percentage goes down by 10 to 63.5. He has 3 touchdowns, 5 picks. His passer rating goes down to 65.5. He's not good outdoors. And this is even in a warm climate. Like, he struggled against the Niners in the NFC Championship game last year, and he struggles in the cold. That could be a huge factor. That's why it's huge for Philadelphia to try to get that number 1 seed. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so that you can be a part of our mailbag, so that you can stay informed and in the know on all things birds. And as always, thanks for supporting the show. Carol Hosey, a $10 super chat. I agree with Rich. You have covered this right. Other media just running clickbait. Yeah, you know, I did a YouTube short on it, 2 YouTube shorts on it. I didn't do like a regular video on it. I've talked about it on the show, but you know, I'm gonna push out a video after the live show here today of, you know, Eagles fans got really good news. It looks like A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts are okay, and so that's the story here. You don't want to run with a false narrative, and sometimes Philadelphia media, they can do that a little bit. All right, last call for Super Chats here. And let's do this. I'm going to put 2 minutes on the Super Chat shot clock. If you want to extend the show, you have 2 minutes to do it. You send in a Super Chat, we'll stay live. Last week, we did $230 in Super Chats. This week, can we beat that number? If we do, we're singing Fly Eagles Fly. We're singing No One Likes Us, We Don't Care. We're going to do a Christmas carol and a beer boot. So 2 minutes. 2 minutes to get it done. 2 minutes to get it done. It's up to the people. It's up to the real ones.
Andrew Nathan coming in.
Andrew Nathan, what's up, brother?
After the mailbag, but has a question. Chase, did you see Amon-Ra say the Eagles scare him? Thoughts about Lurie selling a portion of the team? Could he be looking to build a new stadium? Interesting.
Yeah, so the Eagles Stadium, like, when I go to Lincoln Financial Field, I never feel as though I'm going somewhere where I'm like, something's missing. I think it's a great venue. Yeah. I think it's awesome. I think the Link is great. It hasn't aged. It's still a great stadium. What I wish they would have done or can continue to do, because they have added seats and renovations, close it out and have less openings. Therefore, it holds the noise in. Because I do think the environment, which is loud and raucous, can be even louder and more raucous. But the thought, I think, behind the Eagles may be building a new stadium, have a retractable roof so that they can host a Super Bowl. And the NFL, very wary of going to a colder weather climate, having a Super Bowl there, because they want both teams to be on an equal surface, weather to not be a problem, and have pristine conditions. Yet the NFL will test out a grass surface for the first time in the history of football 2 years ago for that Chiefs-Eagles game, and players were slipping all over the place. Anyway, it is interesting because that's a big moneymaker for the Eagles. But look, I think the stadium is perfectly fine. You're not going to add a retractable roof to Philadelphia. I also think Northeastern football, cold weather climate football, gives the Eagles an edge. Their physicality allows them to match up favorably with teams. Amon-Ra St. Brown, yeah, he's a great player. But Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Darius Slay, they've been playing great football. They've been playing great football. All right, where are we at? We are past the 2-minute warning. So we're going to sign off. Thanks for being here. Great show today. Awesome, awesome audience. We peaked at, 653 people watching live. You love to see it. All right, we'll next be live on Sunday. For Chip, I'm Chase. Go Birds! A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts, they're fine.